I've got advice for those who are new to the heathen path. It'll benefit those of you who've been around the block a time or two as well. Hey there, you beautiful heathen. I'm Matt Sargent. Welcome to Iowa's Initiations. Today I've got some advice that's going to be of the utmost value to you if you're new to the path of heathen. That said, if you've walked a mile or two, maybe been around the block, as I said earlier, there's a lot of good information here, so stick around. Pre-Christian heathens didn't have a unified spiritual practice. It varied from place to place. We're talking about a fairly large area geographically, the places inhabited by the Germanic tribes, and a time period where information didn't travel too fast. They didn't have the internet. No Google? Oh, gods no. How did they survive? But at the core of the practice, of the spiritual practice, was honoring the land, honoring your ancestors, and honoring the gods. If you're into those three things, you might want to consider subscribing, because that's what this channel is all about. And we also throw in saving Midgard, because that's the honorable thing to do. With that in mind, the best place to start your practice or renew your practice, reinvigorate it, is to read the Eddas. Read the Prose Edda, the Poetic Edda, and then move on to the sagas. And if you really want to get into it further, go on to reading Tacitus and some other accounts about the time period of that place. But these stories are the basis for your practice. I'm not saying that you have to practice 100% the way they did, but use it as the foundation. And remember, this is a living, breathing tradition. So don't be stuck in a time zone that no longer exists, because we're 21st century heathens. Own it, embrace it, and base your practice on the tenets of honoring the land, honoring the gods, honoring your ancestors, and then throw in what you have learned from the stories. Once you've read all the stories, read them again. Stay true to the roots, the Eddas, but also stay true to yourself. The number 2 piece of advice is to strive for weird consciousness. It's the enlightened state of being for a heathen, and it's outlined in Valerie Wright's book, Fornthrifa, and it's based on the threefold practice of Wurmot, Fornsed, and Utasita. And Wurmot is high-mindedness, so operating at a higher self than out of a lower self. Fornsed is ancient ways and ancient knowledge, and you can learn the ancient ways and ancient knowledge by reading the Eddas and the old stories, and also trying to live more like your ancestors. I'm not saying ditch every modern convenience you have, but try and embrace more of their lifestyle. Try and be more resilient, more self-reliant. You can learn more about that in this video here. And then the third practice is Utasita, which is outsitting. And again, conveniently, you can learn more about that in this video here. All of those videos will be linked into the show notes, because if you're on a mobile, you're not going to see those cards that I'm pointing to. But if you have those 3 things as a goal and you set your minds on that, then you're going to really tap into this like elevated state of being a heathen. And it's awesome. At least for me, it doesn't stick around all the time unless I consciously remember to practice those 3 things. So integrate those into your lives, and you'll find that your heathen spiritual path will have bring a whole lot more meaning into your life. Next up, if you're into magic, learn it. If you're not, don't. Not all of the old heathens practice magic. That said, if you're into learning Norse magic, you want to learn the arts of the Viki or the Volva or the Sedu, learn it. If you're going to learn it, I recommend finding a mentor, because yes, you can learn all this from spirit. And even if you find a mentor, this is going to be largely spiritually or spirit driven. You're going to learn more from spirit than you can from a person. But a mentor can help you avoid pitfalls, help you work out things that aren't making sense, and help guide you. One of my mentors calls it the sacred Sherpa. And the Sherpa can't get you to the top of the mountain, but they're there for the assist, right? And it's a very important role. Mentors that I would recommend would be Ivy Mulligan at the 21st Century Heathen, or Kurt Hoogstraat, the contemporary Vicky. I'll have links to both of them in the show notes. Or if you want to apprentice with me, learn from me, that is one of the benefits of the upper tier of being a patron on my Patreon page, and there's a link to that in the show notes. But check that out if you want to support the channel. The next piece of advice is to learn the runes. Even if you're not into magic, learn the runes, because they are a way to communicate with spirit, even if you're not diving into the depths of full-on magical practice. But the combination of knowing the runes and knowing the stories sets a clear language for you to communicate with spirit, receive messages from your ancestors, the gods, or the spirits of land and place, the Huspatir or the Landvatir. And last but not least, read the lore. I hope this advice helped you. If you have any advice that you think I left out, please feel free to leave a note in the comments. Stay on script. I don't really script, I have loose notes.